Hello and welcome to This Naked Chat, a podcast where six friends from different walks of life come together for honest, unscripted conversations about living alcohol-free and everything that comes with it. We all met at a live event hosted by Annie Grace of This Naked Mind in March of 2024. What started as a mastermind group with the six of us and Annie turned into some really deep friendships, filled with connection, tough conversations, and a lot of laughter. And after a year of growing and learning together, we realized that these conversations might help more than just us. So here we are, no scripts, just real talk. We are incredibly grateful to Annie and This Naked Mind for helping us get this off the ground and for the impact that her work has had on each of our lives. I am Brian, and I am joined by Kori, Agnes, Judi, Jenie, and Sammie. Let's dive in. I did lose my Olipop sponsorship, and I have an iced tea today, just because I haven't been to Costco this week.
Tea's better for you anyway.
Oh, shut up, Kori.
Well, we can go Bigelow Green Organic Iced Tea sponsored us today as well.
Hey, all right, Judi.
We
And
can do
freeze-dried-
that. And
freeze-dried
I don't know
broccoli
the
in a
brand name
can.
of these stainless steel
Sammy.
straw things, but I'm sure they would sponsor us as well.
So the six of us are together again. And for those of you, I have a hat. Did I have a hat last time?
Yeah.
Last week you did.
Okay,
Is it the
yeah,
same hat?
Yeah. See, now I don't want to get to switching up the hat.
Oh,
'cause
come
that'll
on.
That'll become a thing for me.
Oh, come on.
Or maybe we can get sponsored by a hat company.
How are you?
Rowan said Patagonia.
This is a Patagonia hat. Mm-hmm. It's upside down. So yeah, they're sponsored. They're a sponsor now. So you want me to pick one of these out? And we'll
Yep.
roll?
You do
Does
realize
everyone else had-
sponsorship means they would pay us. That's what sponsorship meant. Not that you advertise for free on their behalf.
Oh, oh shoot! We need one of those then.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
You didn't know that, Brian?
I did, but I thought if you advertise enough. This week sponsored by Ferrari.
They'll just magically start
Yeah,
paying.
they'll just start sending me stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh God! See, now this might not apply to everyone, but it certainly applies to me. Here we go. Dating or just getting to know people in general, alcohol free.
It applies to all of us.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and I think we can expand that a little bit to just be like even like post alcohol free life, how those interactions changed, you know.
Oh,
They
that's
certainly
brilliant.
did for me.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, I can start off personal anecdote because you guys all made me get on a dating site. Remember that?
Picked the wrong one the first time.
Well, now I'm on the right. Now I'm on the right one.
The one for geriatrics.
Yeah, I still don't. It's like it's weallneednewknees.com. And but it's interesting because even on there, I looked at it yesterday. I haven't been as diligent as I should be on there, but I looked yesterday and I had set the drinking preference to what is it? Let's see. It wasn't no drinking, because even in my head, I'm like, someone is going to look at that and be like, oh, that guy doesn't drink.
Wow.
And automatically judge. So I changed it back, but I did have it set at like
What did
sometimes.
Hang
I
on.
think.
What did you change it back to?
No,
Sometimes.
I don't drink. So it was set at it's like for some reason. What is it? Let's just look at this. I can pull up an app real quick.
So do all of the dating apps have you outline your drinking preference? Because that's interesting.
Any that I've been on do. And I'll tell you what, Brian, if I saw a guy not drink, that he doesn't drink, I would gravitate towards that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree for like.
Interesting to me. Why do...
Well, and you can hide all those too. Like so on this one. So this is one of our sponsors, Kori, Hinge.com.
Awesome.
Not unhinged.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
More appropriate.
And this is interesting too. So it has it under My Vices, and it's drinking, smoking, marijuana, and drugs. And you can choose for drinking, yes, sometimes, no, or prefer not to say, and then you can choose whether to hide it or show it on your profile. So I had this set at sometimes because I was thinking, wow, all these people drink. Maybe I should say sometimes and then have that conversation later, which is interesting.
That is interesting.
I don't know when I did that, but.
And what made you switch it back?
It's almost to Judy's point, to be like, why would I want to, if someone, like, just be myself?
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
you want to attract somebody that is going to have the same likes.
Right.
Because if they say, "Oh, I'm not,"
And that's hot.
And what?
And that's hot.
Yeah, short and hot. And so far, I haven't gone on any dates, by the way. So, and when were we in Atlanta? So.
We got you, Brian. We got you.
Well, you just have to say yes, Brian.
I know.
It is
Judy,
interesting
what were you
because Coach Jeanette, who's like this Naked Mind coach as well, because this is kind of her niche, isn't it, a little bit in terms of after divorce and just dating again, alcohol free. So I was chatting to her about it, and I, like you, Jenny, I didn't know it was a question on, because I've never been on any of the apps, so I didn't know. It felt really weird to me that was a question on there, but actually,
me too.
Just like you said, Judy, now if I was going to go on a dating app, I would absolutely go towards the ones that don't drink at all. And we kind of had an interesting conversation around how, the whole thing of actually, if you're not drinking, it's not a judgment, but you don't want to be with somebody that's going to be getting to a point where they're going to repeat themselves and all that sort of thing, and it just becomes a boring conversation. And also, if you're sort of, I don't know, looking to find somebody and you're looking for somebody that's attractive, are you going to find the person who's falling down drunk more attractive than the person who's having a good conversation? So.
And that for me is also the same as smoking. If you get to a point where you're going to kiss them, you want to kiss an ashtray. No.
Yeah.
See, and I thought of it also as sleeping. It's because I like to go to bed early, and if you're drinking, that means you're going to be up late, right?
Or snoring.
Or snoring.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I don't want to be up until midnight. I want to go to bed early and get up at 6.
Yeah.
But if you're drinking, you probably will stay up till midnight, if not later, and you'll probably get up at 8 or 9, if not later.
So, Brian, can I ask you what was rattling around in your mind in terms of, I don't know, a thought or two about when you checked sometimes, more than, well, most of these people are going to be drinking? What more was under that? Was it fear of judgment? Was it fear of, I don't know which direction, swipe left or swipe right? I don't know which is the one.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I'm curious about that too. Like, what was, if you can replay it, what was going through your head when you made that choice and setting up your profile?
I think it's just, knowing what we know about how people view, that if you say you don't drink, there's still, a large proportion of people that think, oh, you had a problem and you quit. And so to me, there's still I'm viewing it as someone's still going to have a stigma out there.
Got it.
And I don't want to, I used to say that, right? I don't want to be friends with people who don't drink. That was a real thought in my head.
Yeah, but were you drinking then? Were you drinking?
Sure,
then
absolutely, Judy. Yeah. Exactly.
So of course you don't want to be, but it's kind of like when we promote our websites and stuff, right? Let people hate you first and be done with it, because you don't want to deal with.
Such a good point, Judy.
I mean, you don't.
Right.
I personally, because when I've gone out and stuff, it's like I don't want to sit there and be like, dinner hasn't even come yet, and already they're like slurring, and because then it's like, well, our conversation just went to the toilet right now, right? Or then if you do even make it through dinner, it's let them think you suck sooner rather than later.
Yeah. But I get your thing though, Brian, about about the perception of being judged before. I mean, I feel it all the time. I feel it because of not drinking. I feel it because of my dietary choices. Like, I feel like, you know, that people will judge me before they even know me. And it's not even so much that it's going to hurt my feelings. It's that then, you know, you've lost the opportunity for connection, or to maybe like have them see that, hey, you know, like being alcohol free actually there's a lot of great benefit to it. And when you put judgment on me, you're like missing out on something before you even give it a chance.
Yeah.
You're right. They're narrowing their world. And it's not that it hurts my feelings. It's almost like I want to help you, right, by seeing. And when you judge me before we even get a chance to get that far, then now you're just cut off, you know? So I totally get the feeling. I mean, I agree with Judi, like for a dating app, you know, I want to filter as quickly as possible anyway, but I totally get that feeling.
I get it too on a degree though, but you can put it with anything in life, right? You can put it like with your nutrition and the alcohol, right, Kori? You can put it with religion. How many people? Well, if you're in that church, so you suck, right?
Yeah.
You know, and but everything, or oh well, you were a doctor, well you must be all high and mighty, or all of those kind of things. People are going to judge us anyway. So
it's
really,
very true.
truth is, who's judging us? Them, or are you judging yourself?
Oh, there it is.
Interesting.
Very true. Very true.
Are you judging yourself? Because I get to a point, I'm like, I don't really care what you think, because I know who I am, and if we're supposed to be together in this moment, it'll happen.
Yep.
I mean, that's the other interesting piece that you mentioned there, Judi, is on the site, like religion is one. All those filters are there, right? Religion, ethnicity.
Educate me, because I don't know.
Education is one. Political stance. Like, so you can go in and be like, this is exactly who I want. I thought too, what Sammie and Agnes said, I thought this was interesting, and I have a story. But Sammie said, like, I don't want someone who, you know, slurs or gets fall down drunk. I think Judi said can speak at dinner. Agnes is like, sleep. That's almost like we're putting our own experiences on other people who may just have, like, because that's how I was. I would have fit in all those situations.
Yeah.
Wow.
But like, what if it's just a girl that has a glass of wine at dinner that I just went, shoot.
Yeah.
You know, that's weird
That's true.
too.
So then you could be judging
Exactly.
to them. So you're doing it the other way as well.
I suppose I was thinking from the app, because you've got the choices of sometimes, often.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Again, if it's got profiles of pictures of, you can see if people are always in photos with.
I do notice that. That is interesting.
That's what first dates are all about, right? Well, I sometimes drink, and you go out, and by mid-meal they're hammered. Okay, I guess sometimes it's done.
I just kind of think if I'm going to feel that awkward being completely alcohol free on a date, I want them to feel as awkward as me. So they can be alcohol free.
Yeah.
How do you feel
know,
about that,
awkward
Brian?
and anxious. Excellent.
Yeah.
There is so I will share. I think this isn't this time. So the last time I was on a dating app, I actually went on a second date with someone before I quit the dating app. So the first, we just had lunch. It was good. So we decided to go to a second date. The second date, she came to meet me, and I was with my friends at like our favorite bar. And to all of your points, I had already been drinking and was probably like, and at some point she just left. And it took me a while to realize, oh, she left because I was being an idiot, you know, like, so I was fitting those profiles to be like, oh, that guy still acts like he's, you know, in his party phase, and that's not what I'm into. So, you know, that's probably to your point of like the first date or the second date, you're like, who are you, guy or girl or whatnot?
You know what? I think that I guess the way that I see it is, it's the more that you could accept yourself for who you are, the better off any kind of relationship could develop from that. Because if you're if you're okay, like you have to decide, do I want to be around somebody who drinks or doesn't drink or the whole bit? Because again, it puts us into that cycle. If we're with somebody, we already know we're going to feel people judging us. But if we look at it, they're judging us because they're insecure, they're uncomfortable, they're doing all those things. So again, there goes back, we could turn around and judge them and cut them off and not give them that opportunity to be uncomfortable. And maybe it will take a second date for them to finally get through that. So again, if we look at what we want, then that's what we're going to attract. And then remember that people are behaving out of their own insecurities as well.
But we can fix them, Agnes. We can fix them.
Well, Kori,
we're attracted to the insecure.
But Kori, we can't, because we can't if they don't want to be fit.
Rescue.
I know.
Oh God!
Nobody
but you know what?
fixed.
But let me tell you. But that is fascinating because those are all those types of people that you seem to notice, and it's like, oh yeah, I know how to fix that. Oh yeah, I know how to fix that. Meanwhile, it's like, no. They're just presenting themselves, and we just need to learn to be okay with that.
So, Brian, can I put you on the spot?
Yep.
If someone swiped whichever direction for you and they said on their profile that they drank sometimes and otherwise looked attractive in all the ways, would you go out with them?
Oh, for sure.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm asking that because I have this potential coaching client right now who is really struggling with a potential partner. She has stopped drinking and her potential partner is still drinking, and she's all good, in all the ways. And she's trying to navigate really, how do I feel about the fact that he's still drinking? And in her assessment, he's not over drinking, but he's still drinking. And so she's asking herself, how much judgment am I inflicting on this potential relationship versus can I separate myself and make it, me do me? Mm-hmm. And I think that's also an interesting conundrum.
It is. And I think it's like kind of what our topic is about is like, and kind of what you're saying, Agnes, so like how you're authentically, being yourself. Like when you're around people that are drinking and you're not, it quickly loses its entertainment value, right? Like, so, it's kind of about having your boundaries to say, I love you or whatever, I like you, I want to spend time with you, but it's just not any fun, when you're drinking. So I'm just not going to do that. I like hanging around with you when you're sober, and I got no judgment for you. Feel free to drink. I just don't want to, be around you when you're doing it. I mean,
that's really funny because when I stopped drinking, someone who was like my best friend at the time was like, we can't, you're just so boring now. You're not drinking. You're so boring. And I was like, I'm done. Yeah.
And you're like, it's feelings mutual, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just had this conversation. It was kind of what Agnes was referring to there of when we talk about wanting to fix other people, like I could fix that person. To me, that's putting on that I think they need to change to be more like me versus what I think Agnes was saying in the beginning was like, if I'm just comfortable being myself, this is the hard thing about the apps of like, you're trying to almost up front be like, look, I can be anything to attract this wider pool. But then what you really want is to accept you, which you need to accept yourself first. Otherwise you'll stop showing. So like, that's where, I guess to Jenny's question, to being like open to be like, just because you drink doesn't mean I need to fix you or there's something wrong with you. Right. I don't think.
Don't you think it comes a little bit down to judgment as well, though? Because just because I think certainly early on when I went alcohol free, I couldn't help but find myself being judgmental.
Sure.
But the more I settled into accepting that I just didn't drink anymore, just because I might say I don't want to spend the evening with you because you're drinking, it's not a judgment in it. It's just I don't want to spend the evening with you because you're drinking. So I think there's a difference between doing it with a judgment and doing it without.
Right? Like that's what I've been trying to work on, is like this. I feel like so much of the time, especially with some of the ideas that I had of like alcohol is terrible, all this stuff, it's like, well, that's my stuff, right? But why do I feel the need to preach that out? You know, like,
Well, and
that's a tough one for me recently.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but also, like, you can. What's the saying about, hate the sin but love the sinner?
Right.
Like, alcohol is objectively bad. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? That's what all the data says. It's objectively bad. But I can still not have love and acceptance for people that still use it.
My family. My family. Hello. Right?
some years ago, not that long actually, this might slightly illustrate the point, not to the extreme end of it, the Kori. On my bucket list was to see Elton John at Caesar's Palace in Vegas, all right? And lo and behold, I got tickets for his very last night of residency there, which was amazing. And my best friend was supposed to go with me, and she got sick with COVID, and she bailed. And so my classical musician, not Elton John husband, said, Kori's met him, said, I'll go. And so off we went. It was a great 2.5 days, but literally because he was so miserable, and it's a real thing for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know those headphones you wear when you're chainsawing or leaf blowing? He wore those through the entire concert. And it's kind of like that level of discomfort, I think, comes into play. Kori, you can see that, right? It comes into play here because it could be anything. It could be how someone votes in elections. Mm-hmm. It could be someone's vegan and someone's a carnivore, and for whatever reason, that just is enough is too much. It's not limited to alcohol, and I think it is just that. And that's why I asked the question of you, Brian. I didn't truly mean to put you in a corner, but I think it's, I don't know, if I were in the dating market, which I hope not to be, may he live forever, that man of mine, but I would have to really pause and ask myself a variety of questions as to how much I'm willing to bend, not just with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that, first of all, there's a fabulous woman that I had a conversation with, Annie Grace. This Naked
One
Wine.
Of our sponsors.
There, you believe it? And
she actually is a sponsor. Yeah.
And I actually had this conversation with her about, other people drinking, because I'm around drinkers. So I have not taken myself out of my life. I've just stopped drinking in it. And that was a roller coaster ride for me. And she goes, well, if you're noticing how much they're drinking and you're noticing all of this, then how much freedom do you actually have from the alcohol?
There it is.
And I was like, yeah, because my focus is they're drinking too much, he's drinking too much, whatever it is. And it's like, okay, but then so how free am I? So I'm not drinking, and I'm okay not drinking, and I don't want to drink. And I don't want to control them, but am I really free? So it really made me think. And then, it took me through this whole series of journaling. And I realized it's expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with expectations, first of all, they have to be conscious. So I had these expectations that I wasn't even aware of. And that's why I was uncomfortable being maybe in surroundings of people drinking. Then from them being, so now I'm bringing them to consciousness, right? Then they have to be communicated. So now again, if I'm going to a dinner party if I'm going out for dinner with my husband and I want to have a deep conversation, then I need to communicate, listen, I really want to have a deep conversation. And for me, I struggle that if you're drinking too much, right? They have to be realistic and they have to be agreed upon. So that has changed everything now when I look at it like that, because so I don't feel that anymore. So that uncomfortable, that whatever it is, it isn't, but I already know what I'm setting myself up for. And if I have those expectations, I'm going to make sure they're communicated. Like I go through that with whoever it is. So I don't get disappointed. So like if we're all going out for dinner and stuff, I already know, okay, we're going to have some conversations, but that's not about it. Let's keep it light. So, okay, what are the light things that I want to talk about that won't bother me if it doesn't get into something deep?
Oh my God, Agnes,
That's
is
beautiful.
fucking brilliant.
Yep.
And
Thanks to Annie Grace.
yeah,
And we can
If that
thank
was
her
a-
for that one.
my
If that was a
husband said,
first date, though, would you say all that?
No, not the first date, but what I would do is, again, I would go back to myself. What's important to me? And I would make sure that that is. So like if something is important to me, like not drinking on the first date, then I would say like, listen, I would or I would pick a coffee shop where you can't get the alcohol. Do you know what I mean? Like you got to figure out what's important to you first before you could even do any of that.
And I think it's fair, like being kind to yourself, like you don't always know. Like sometimes you have to like butt up against something for you to realize that it's important to you or that something makes you uncomfortable or whatever. Like it's okay to like go in and have that experience and be like, oh, I didn't like that. Let me articulate to myself why I didn't like that. Like, Agnes, you had to live some of that before you finally came to your consciousness of like, oh, here's why I'm spending all this time.
This episode is sponsored by The Path by This Naked Mind. It's a year-long program that combines expert guidance, daily support, and a connected community to help you take back control of your drinking so that you can wake up without regret, trust yourself again, and live a life that doesn't revolve around alcohol. Unlike the programs that focus on your behavior alone, The Path helps you eliminate the desire to drink using science-backed content, world-class coaching, and a compassionate community that really, truly gets it. So you can feel confident and in control of your relationship with alcohol without shame, without rules, and without missing out on the things that matter most. And in 2025, support is more accessible than ever before with live online coaching calls every hour on the hour from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Saturday. No matter where you are in the world or what your day looks like, support is always there, right in your back pocket. Learn more and start your path to freedom at nakedmindpath.com.
As you know, I come straight from a therapy appointment to this. And what Agnes just described is what him and I were talking about a little bit today. This is like this, I seem to have these expectations, or I'm working on this, these expectations for all these other people to be like, why can't you guys figure out the way to do things right? Like, why are you all still drinking? Why are you not getting healthy? Why are you not driving in the fucking right lane? Because when you're going through, like it's things like that I'm like, why? I feel like I used to, and this goes back to like our meditation conversation and kind of how I've got back into some of that is this is like this. Yes, exactly. Like this acceptance of not needing everyone to be like me, but then I also get to choose if I am with them, right? Like that goes with that other friendships of like, there's some people that I just don't, that are no longer part of my life after that decision. But I'm trying not to initially judge everyone so fast of like, oh, why are you still drinking that for brunch. It's not really a, that my friends, we went to Easter brunch and they had some digestives. And I wanted to be like, I don't think that really does what the name says. And both of them like took a drink of it and they're like, oh my God, this is so disgusting. And I'm like, well, yeah. But then he just shot it and I was like, and I love them, and that's what, but in my head, I'm thinking these things and I used to say something and now I don't, because I'm like, why can't I just let them do that? Right? Like, why do I feel the need? So I think that expectation is so big.
It really is. And I think there's this boundaries thing, and I don't know, the powers that be, and my power is Brene Brown, would suggest to us that outlining your core values is a really good framework to construct where your boundaries are. And granted, of course, sometimes they're fluid depending on the situation. Lines in the sand are lines in the sand, and outlining those, and then the hard part is having a potentially difficult conversation to communicate those values to another. That's the hard part. But knowing what those values are before you're going into a new relationship, I think can be really helpful, she said, from someone completely outside the dating world. Oh my God.
But to also, and to Kori's point and to Agnes's point, I think the more we know ourselves, right, and the more, and Brian, kudos to you for doing the work, because it's tough work, I know, or it can be super tough, but the more we know ourselves and the less judgmental we get about ourselves, the less we're going to judge anybody else, because we're giving ourselves the grace, we're giving ourselves the mercy. And if we can't do it for ourselves, how are we even close to being able to do it with anyone else, right? Because we all project because none of us want to sit in that discomfort. So let's go, boo, you're the bad boy. Yeah. But in fact, you're not. It's just that we're all in the same boat. And and
exactly. And, I think some of it's like when you're having these interactions with people, whether it's about alcohol or whatever, it's almost kind of this idea of where is it coming from? When you interact with somebody, like, where is it coming from within you? Because there's a way to like communicate, yourself and your values and whatever, that's not judgmental. That's just like saying, hey, this is just how I am, right? Like this is just what I care about, or just, some offhanded remark that's just part and parcel to who you are. And it's not meant to be judgmental in any way, but it still speaks to who you are, right? And maybe it even, it could even be like the very same sentence, said two different ways. And one of them is kind of this place of judgment, coming from a place of judgment, and one of them's kind of coming just from, because it's authentically who you are and how you operate in the world. And it's so funny. I was just having this same conversation with my therapist last week of like
one of our sponsors.
Yeah, exactly. Therapy in general. Yes. Yeah. It's so weird. It's this like, the thing that I probably was more having the conversation around was like trying to be authentic without, kind of looping back around to what we talked about at the beginning, without having people judge me for it, right? Like, it's just so weird. Our brains are so weird.
But what if people do judge? People judge all the time. So what?
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
To me, it's a matter of just letting go of being affected by others' judgment. Because,
Amen.
How many...
It's that whole let them, isn't it? It's that whole let
other
them.
people think is none of your business, right?
Yep.
How many times have I said that in my career to my clients? It's like, if you're judging you, that's the big deal. Right. That's the big deal.
Well, and that's where it is.
People are going to judge you all the time. Doesn't matter. You could have a purple vest on or something. It's like, right? Judgment. But that's their problem.
And our default as hashtag because human, our default is to judge others. That's what we do. That's in our brains as our default. And the key is awareness that we're doing that. And wait a minute, what thought has triggered that judgment in me? That's the key word. But it's our default, and it's normal.
Well, I was just thinking about the other thing that's worth mentioning is because you were saying about not even if it's not necessarily a date, but just if you're meeting somebody, you know, without drinking, and ordinarily that's something you would have done, it will be uncomfortable to start with, but it's like anything, you've got to go through it for it to get easier. You know, I mean, I've got a client at the moment, and I actually said to him about going out and purposely going into a pub and having a mocktail, because he said, I've never had a mocktail. And I was like, well, why would you? You were drinking. You wouldn't even look at the mocktail list. You would go and have a pint. So that's exactly what we did. And it was funny to watch him as he's drinking it was a Pinot Colada. So Pinot Colada without the alcohol. And he was like, oh my God, this is really good. I mean, literally by the end of it, he was proper like, you know, I mean, obviously it's a sugar rush, isn't there? But he was genuinely quite gobsmacked at how it felt like a treat, and it was good, and he said, well, he's never considered it. Well, you wouldn't, would you?
Right. Let's go around the table thing if we're still doing that. I think we should do that.
I'm just going to go back to how I've been yapping, that it really is, I mean, we all do our personal work. We all have therapists. We all do our, you know, or have had therapists in our lives, or all of that, because the truth of the matter is, life is hard, and we have judgments about it, and it has judgments about us. But we have to figure out, who am I, period, and can I accept me for who I am? And if that be the case, good, bad, or indifferent, we all have bones in our closet. There's none of us that don't. But good, bad, or indifference, we have to say, all right, I have these bones, but so what? You know, so what? Keep walking. Keep walking. Just keep moving forward. It's when we get stuck and do nothing that can happen real easily, can't it? I mean, it's real easy to just get paralyzed. I know this all the time. But I just think the journey is to know you are loved, and to be loved, and to love yourself, and just, okay, whatever is, and just shake it out.
I am in a stage in my life, and I've just cracked the door open onto this. I know Judy's there. I know Kori's there. And I'm sure the rest, all
I'm not.
Me neither.
You're a boy.
I don't know what we're talking. I don't know what we're talking about.
But there is sort of an adage that if you're a female and you hit your 50s, give or take, that you kind of have arrived into the fuck it phase of your life. And I'm more than 59 and a half now. God fucking help me. And I think I am finally cracking the door open into that, you know what, I'm all set. I really am. And I'm happy most days with my trajectory. And I'm happy in my relationship. And I am so fucking grateful. I don't right now need to be on a dating app to meet people. I'm so sorry, Brian. And Judy.
I could also go to a grocery store.
Home Depot, dude. That's what I hear.
Those aren't the place that I'm going to meet people.
But
Like,
I don't know.
Work for me? Cool.
It's just another reminder that it still all starts from believing within me that I am whole. Never mind, the skeletons and all of it, never mind that. But I didn't come into the world with that baggage. And who I was when I did come into the world is who I am now.
You know, when Sammie was talking about, like, we have to put in some work, like, we have to continue doing this. I feel the same, and you guys all know this. Like, I've thought of, like, firing my therapist, many months ago. And then every time I think of that, we get to something like today where I was like, this again, the reason why I've been maybe more judgy than I have been, or feeling like why are my expectations for all these people so strange, is that I still am trying to figure out that deeper, to Judi's point, like who am I? Who is that little kid? And we traced it back today to like this, this little kid in me is like this kid with an eye patch, who had already had like 4 eye surgeries and was like, continually being told like, gosh, you're broken and we need to fix your eyes and your nose and all that stuff. And it's like, that's the sort of shit that you need to go back and talk to and relate to and be like, that's the guy that's still inside causing you to say, hey, why are you not like me now that I'm cool? Boy, is that a fucking painful process.
Yep.
And the reason I'm doing mushrooms tomorrow. But that's a conversation for another. But I mean, it's like an endless search, and that's why I like for Judi and Jenie, and I truly believe that about you two. Like you guys are and all the others too, possibly, but you can tell like you're in a stage of like, fuck you, like this is who I am, like accept it or don't. And when we tie that to dating or relationships or something, like being your yourself and being like, I don't care what you think. I'm not going to put on a show because when I'm trying to put on a show, and this goes to your other point of like, I'm changing my values to fit someone else.
Yeah.
And in a real relationship, from what I've heard, you don't do that, right? Like,
I mean, for me, what comes up all the time really is everything comes down to fear.
mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I've realized. If I've got anxiety or anything really, ultimately when I look into something, if I'm judging somebody else, if I've got expectations of somebody else, it's because there's a fear there of something, whether it's about what I'm not doing or they're not doing, or it's useful to remind myself that that's where ultimately it comes from.
How do you shift that? What do you
well,
like,
I don't necessarily shift it in the moment. I just have the awareness that that's what it is, recognize it and allow it. It's that whole Tara Brach thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
the rain,
to be like, why am
recognize,
I
allow,
exactly.
Investigate, nurture.
Exactly.
You don't have to do anything with it at that moment in time, but it just helps for the anxiety not to grow and to just go sideways and into behaviors that I don't want to do anymore.
I know.
Well, you know what? For me, it's just because we're all human beings. And again, the more curious we can be, I find that we're always curious about others, but not ourselves. And the more curious that we could be about ourselves and understand why we feel, why we do, where did it come from, then I feel that releases that judgment. That's where acceptance comes in. That's where the love for self comes. And then that's where we figure out who we are. And I think that's the most, I just feel like that's just the direction that makes sense to me.
Curiosity is courage in disguise.
Yeah.
That's what I had.
That's the
Man,
quotable
Sammy
quote,
is full of them today. No kidding.
Yeah.
Jesus,
Well, I haven't
she comes
finished
back
work.
from Bali and she's like, look at me, dudes.
Just channeling the Zen.
Well, I guess Kori's turn to just wrap it all up in a nice, perfect package.
As she
So we can
always
sell
does.
Okay, then. No pressure.
Oh.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, the takeaway I think is, right, like you've all said it, it's just authenticity and being yourself, and that's the key to relationships without alcohol. And yep, it's going to be awkward sometimes. It was awkward before, and that's why you drink.
Yeah, good point.
Well, this was therapeutic.
And the other
I'll
thing
press
is,
stop.
when you
we
do
get
it
paid?
when you're ready, right?
What? Yeah, I know.
Anybody,
Yeah,
you do what you do when you're ready to do it.
Do we get paid?
for doing this podcast?
For
being
doing
your
Brian's
therapist?
therapy.
Oh,
For being your
yeah. Let me press
estrogen
stop
lake?
first, and then yeah,
Sponsored by Brian.
yeah, right. I pay 6 therapists to be on a call with me every week. Hey, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If something we said resonated, made you laugh, or made you think, we'd love it if you share it with someone who might need it too. And if you're curious about going alcohol-free or just ready to feel more connected to yourself, check out This Naked Mind. Annie's work brought us all together, and we're so grateful for the impact it's had. On that note, a big thank you to Annie Grace and This Naked Mind for making this podcast possible. We'll see you next time on This Naked Chat.